morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever part of the world you are in today. We are so grateful that you're joining us for the King's Counsel and Trust Family Office Town Hall gathering today. We've got some great stuff in store. I know a few of you joined our Strategic Philanthropy Statement webinar last month. It was super exciting to have you a part of that. If you missed it and you still want to learn more, let us know because we do have a replay available and you're able to get all of the details of that to participate. And so if you're just joining us for the first time, here are some of the services that we provide. Tax strategy, wealth counseling, family governance, charity, philanthropy, legacy and succession. We work with projects all over the globe. There's lots of resources that you can find here within the family office. And a little bit about today, we are going to learn about King's Counsel and Trust's mission and vision. We also get to hear from Larry on a health minute. It's been really powerful every month. He not only does his health talk, but also gives us a great resource library to reference to. We're going to be following up on our last topic and kind of the next step of 7 principles of unveiling the kingdom. Then we have an exciting Slight Edge financial update, and we'll do a breakout room and open it up for Q&A. And so don't wait until Q&A. If you have a question, please put in the chat. We love to hear what's on your mind. If we don't answer it right in the moment, we'll make sure we go back. Karen or anybody that's joining us, we do require you to be on camera. So please, if you would join us, we love seeing all the smiley faces and who is here today with us. And so our mission and vision. So I'm going to read aloud the mission, and I love hearing from you what stands out from the mission and vision for you. So if there's something that stands out, please put it in the chat. We're here to syndicate social impact ventures that bring people together with passion and purpose, whose priorities and practices are to pray, prepare, participate, partner, and prosper together. And so we have a vision of kingdom social enterprise dedicated to sharing the good news and helping others to fulfill God's will, to become more effective with what you do, to give away what you can't keep, and to gain what you can never lose. And so if there's something that stands out for you, would love to hear that in the chat. All right, so we have a video. Make sure you can hear this okay. Give me thumbs up if you can.
Work. Most of us spend over half our lives at work. Whatever it is you fill the 9 to 5 with, planting crops, building cars, taking care of patients, teaching students, or running a business, work is where most of life happens. For some, work is a drain. They dread Monday mornings, forcing themselves to struggle through because they need the paycheck, while many times feeling trapped and beaten down by their job. Some people love their work. They're good at what they do. It energizes them. It's a place of security, a place to chase dreams, desires, and success. At work, they find fulfillment. We often forget to connect our faith to our work. We don't consider the reasons God may have us at our job. We don't think about the purpose and meaning we could bring to our work. We simply focus on how it makes us feel. But what if we saw our work as an opportunity to worship? As Christians, we are called to serve Christ with our lives. For a few, that means working as a pastor, a youth minister, or a missionary. Others serve the church by teaching children or singing in the choir. But when Sunday is over, most of us return to our jobs outside the church. For us, our mission is in the marketplace. We may not be the kind of missionary who moves to the far regions of Africa, but around the conference table, around the water cooler, or around the cubicle, we have an opportunity to worship the God who created us. He gave us skill. He gave us passion. He gave us work. When we do our jobs with excellence and integrity and diligence, it's an act of worship. We are displaying God's craftsmanship to the non-believing world around us. We are earning the right to be heard. We don't see a divide between Sunday and Monday, between the sacred and the secular. We've been invited into parts of the world that a pastor or traditional missionary will never see. We have conversations with people who would never set foot in a church. Whether we love or dread our work, we choose to turn the focus away from ourselves and toward the mission God has for us. Church is not the only place we worship, and Sundays are not the only days on our calendars that have meaning. Every day on mission for God brings us great joy. Like the heroes before us, we can be modern-day Noahs and Josephs and Peters who are called with a purpose. God has designed us. He created us to work and to worship. For us, work is worship.
Beautiful. And so if you missed us last month, I wanted to make sure I drop in, I'll put that in just a moment, the link. We talked about rich dad, poor dad, and which one is you. If you didn't get a chance to watch it, I'll drop that in just a moment. So those of you that are here for the first time, you may not have met the managing director, Dale Hewitt Collier, who has really been the visionary, comes from the financial industry for a very long time with Morgan and Stanley, started out there and then realized that really a lot of the principles of the kingdom principles, the ultra wealthy, they are not really what the general public have. And so he left all of that behind, bringing that knowledge here to us today, and has been tagged as the financial futurist with the insight to really foresee what's been going on in the world and how to navigate that and how to work within what he calls the tax-free road, which is very exciting. So we do have our covenant versus contracts, and that's really the foundation of what King's Counsel and Trust stands for. This is where we're helping people build stronger relationships through trust and shared values. And so we invite you, if you haven't downloaded this workbook, this is a really powerful tool to start understanding the differences of what we do and how to really work within these principles in your world. We do have an upcoming event that we're thrilled to be, again, we did the strategic philanthropy this last month. We do have our Unleashing the Power of Power Partners, of partnerships. And so this is a great opportunity to get to know how to work with partners in your business, in your mission, in your organization, to grow. This particular one is free, open for the public. You go to powerpartnermastery.com. And in May, we are doing one that all of the members of KCT get to attend for free. This particular one, you get a checklist to get started. So we invite you to come and join us. And then the one for the members, next month, I'll drop in those details there. You actually get a workbook, and we're going to be working with you on how to identify good power partners, how to be a good power partner. Are you ready? A lot of times people, as they say here, aren't ready to receive. And what do you need to do to be ready to receive and identify individuals there? And so now I'm going to turn it over to Larry, who's going to be talking about energy healing. And those of you that don't know Larry, he's tagged as the cash flow whisperer.
Thanks, Shannon. Appreciate that. Let me share my screen. And for those that are new, we decided a number of months ago, last year, to take a few minutes, a little longer than 1 minute, but take a few minutes to share some keys to healthful living. The context for us doing this is really pretty simple. It's very, very difficult to fulfill your God-given destiny when you're in poor health. I found this definition and in the Greek for healing, and thought it was very good. It's worth reading, and y'all can read along. Reversing a physical condition so someone can live out their potential, underlining the responsibility that goes with it to fully serve the Lord. The healing in the Gospels comes with the responsibility and accountability to now best serve the Lord. And that's the primary reason to remain in good health and be in good health. This month's topic is energy healing. We've covered a number of them relating to breathing, eating, tips on how to overcome cancer and various other types of illnesses. But to me, this is a great definition or statement from Tesla. You want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. And I think to some degree, hopefully to a large degree, the people are come out of the everything's matter context, realizing that everything is energy, vibration, and frequency. Energy healing is a variety of holistic techniques based on the belief that our bodies have energy flowing through them, and healing can come from healing the balance of this flow. And the practice of energy healing has been around the world in cultures for centuries. And the purpose of the energy medicine is to treat energetic imbalances to bring the body's systems back to homeostasis. In this form of medicine, it is believed that disturbances in human energy patterns are indications of disease and aging. And one of the reasons to bring this up is again, to help share with people that have different belief systems and understandings of how the body works, how God designed us, and may not even be open or aware of some of these techniques. And some of the types of energy healing are acupuncture, acupressure, Reiki, reflexology, healing touch, massage, music therapy, tapping, which is EFT, and sound energy therapy and healing prayer, even from that. One of the things that I've discovered in my study of the Bible and practical purposes is a hand. Something is unique about how God designed us with our hands. And Job 36:32 says, God covers his hands with lightning and commands it to strike the mark. Well, if you look at what Jesus said in John 14:12, we should be able to do what he did and more. And he certainly touched and healed a lot of people. And in 1 John 4:17, it says, as God is, so are we on this earth. So I've connected in, for me, my understanding and belief that then I'm able to declare that my hand is covered with lightning and I can too command it to strike the mark. And if you look at Mark 16:18 in the Bible, and it says, for those that believe, that we can lay hands on people and they can be healed. So part of the energy healing, I believe, is the use of the hands as well. This is, to me, a great book. Really opened my eyes to some things. Hidden Messages in Water by Emoto. And hopefully everybody on the call is familiar with the book. If you're not, I'd highly recommend you kind of Google some of his stuff. But the reason I bring this up is that what happens is when I read this, I don't know how many years ago, it really made sense and brought to the top of mind in my presence how valuable our words are, especially in the healing side of things. Because Proverbs 18:21 says, words kill, words give life, either poison or fruit you choose. And from the standpoint of Emoto, what he did, he took water, and as you see the picture on the left, and spoke words or wrote words on the water, love and gratitude. Then they do words in this particular picture. He used the words "you fool," and you see how the images come out, how it shapes the water to give credence to the reality and the truth that our words do matter. And so what I've learned personally over the years is how I speak to myself and to my body helps impact tremendously my health. Now, I recommend this particular book to you. It's kind of a synopsis from a lot of different types of people in the healing business. and it's got little quotes throughout, and it's just a very good book relating to energy healing. At the sometime during the session today, we'll post into the chat a folder, and in this particular folder has a number of different books that on different types of healing that I highly recommend. And each one of the books are ones that I have in my personal library, so I know about them. So hopefully that you'll take advantage of that, and that'll be put into the chat a little later. So,
I just dropped it in. I hope it's okay. I just dropped it in. It says Larry's Gifts and Resources. And then I put 2 links to the Amazon Dr. Emoto and then the Heal book. Thank you, Larry, so much.
Thank you.
Okay, Dale, now we're gonna talk about the 7 principles. Next step was 7 principles of unveiling the kingdom.
Thank you all. Thank you, Larry. I'd like to encapsulate what do we stand for? Why are we here? If it's not obvious, there's a war on the First Amendment. It's not just here in the United States, it's anywhere that Britain has set up with using their charter. And there's 4 legs to that stool. In that there's several principles we're here to uncover in terms of what that blueprint looks like on earth as it is in heaven. But those 4 tenets kind of look like this. Number 1, we have the right. This is not a government right, by the way. This is one of those God-given things. To freely come together, to associate, to assemble. We have the freedom of speech. We all heard of that and how that's been challenged lately, and how, unfortunately, how divisive that is. We also have the right to exercise our faith. And when it's all said and done, we have the right to privately contract. There is no law that says we have to use their money. You see, we are gathered together in private association. That's what the First Amendment is all about. And if that's a new concept to you, let me back up just a moment. We've all been born into the first of many private associations. It's called the family. They are not incorporated. They're not legal partnerships. They're not limited companies. We all come from one, and we're not taxed as a family. We are taxed as individuals. When we come together as family, as an unincorporated association, as a private membership association, as a decentralized autonomous organization, there's a lot of different things floating around out there in the traditional sense and even in the crypto digital sense of the word. But make no mistake, if they control the First Amendment, we lose any sense of freedom that we think we may have. That's where the war is. And what King's Counsel and Trust stands for, part of why I left the belly of the beast back in the day, and I serve no longer in any licensed capacity, is because I don't need a license to do what I'm talking about doing in the First Amendment, in this organization. I don't need to go get a permit, as it were, to share some good news. I don't need to go to seminary school to share what I believe about the Bible or any other book. What we stand for are financial services reform. That's what we're doing. And it doesn't come without a fight. It's uncomfortable. And that gets exactly to where we are in terms of these principles. And I hope today's message may challenge every one of you a little bit, and not just what we're doing here today, but who you're doing, what you're doing with wherever you are in the world. Because this I know, there's no limits to God's jurisdiction. It doesn't start and stop with the state of Florida, the United States of America, Canada, any country in Africa, anywhere in the world. We owe it to our brothers and sisters to get it right, as it were, take care of our temples, because it will be that 4th T that will determine our 5th T, and that is to say how many people we touch. So getting ready to receive has everything to do with reallocating our time and talent and our treasure, our resources, so that God can spend more of us. And so to recap where we left off last year, we talked about kingdompreneurship and kind of what sets kingdompreneurs, as much as they are similar, what sets them apart than every other group of the 28 so-called, I'll just say, entrepreneurs out there, 28 million or so in America. Most of them self-employed by the greater definition, but nevertheless, we talked about they're called to make a difference. They are positioned by God. Unfortunately, a lot of people, like maybe you've seen it in pastors, they often get into ministry, and believe it or not, there's actually more people that fall away from being a pastor than people are getting divorced. I assure you that if God doesn't bring you to it, it's probably, as much as it might seem like a good idea, it's probably not a good idea, because that may not be your ultimate path and purpose. So if God hasn't positioned you to do something, I encourage you, stay in your lane. Please do not get distracted. Number 3, they're visionary. They're calculated risk takers. They're servant leaders in the sense that they're not significantly looking for their own personal success. We've all been taught what financial independence looks like. We know that the kingdompreneur way is interdependence. It's the better way. It's the fishing with multiple lines interconnected, as opposed to the good idea of fishing with one line at a time and teaching one man to fish. Good idea, but that doesn't feed a village. The next is relational leadership, and that is, I think, one of the great things about our big brother Jesus, and the fact that he showed us what no other prophet, no other significant man of faith in history had done, is to reveal the Father as a very relational Father. It's very human in terms of having characteristics much like our earthly dads. And in the end, it's, we're here on assignment. We're not here to take a little vacation in terms of what eternity may look like. We've got an assignment. The real question is, have we lost our way? Did we get distracted? Did we give up? And that is to be in the world, but not of it. With that said, I'd like to just kind of get into what that assignment is. And this is, I believe, this isn't mine. This is one of my earlier mentors. He's passed now. His name's Dwight Pryor. I'm going to drop a link into an ebook that'll be available for the next 30 days. If you like what's going on there, this is in our library, a lot more of an in-depth video and discussion on it. But my takeaway that I'd like to share with y'all today is what it means, what that assignment looks like more specifically, and how do we bring heaven to earth. What's that blueprint look like? And the 7 principles. That number 1, it begins with a king-centered consciousness. The first commandment is about keeping God number 1. Anything less than God, anything that gives us more pleasure than that relationship, more or less is idolatry in some shape or form. Most of us, if we're honest with ourselves, we're more interested in building our kingdom than his. But he says very clearly, but put my kingdom first, and all that you need will be added to you. All. Not some, not a fraction, all. And I think that's pretty cool. Number 2, and this is where many fall short, in my opinion, including King's Counsel, I might add. Many come to get what they need here to King's Counsel, but unfortunately, what we've observed in almost 20 years of our existence, they get comfortable, they stop, and they stay. Apostles back in the day were captains of their ship. When you pull into safe harbor, you unload your stuff, you have a break, you get loaded up with more stuff, and you get back out there. We're not supposed to stop and get comfortable. And I think honestly, looking in the mirror, we're not doing a very good job of creating disciples, because, and what I mean by that, the best disciple is one that's learning, it's one that's sharing and duplicating. If there's not multiplication, it's just arithmetic, chances are it's that one line at a time kind of thing. I think we're missing the multiplication, as it were, of the good news going viral. The third thing is how we show up with humility. You know, some of the most humble people I know are the ones that know a lot, but they also know that the more that they know, the more they don't know. It is very humbling. And I might add, we've all been a teenager where we think we know it all, only to find out as we go into our 20s and learning to stand on to our own feet, starting our families and careers, et cetera. We don't know a whole lot of much of anything. And so I think the third characteristic is that really stands out is our humility. And you know, it's not that we think less of ourselves per se. That's not what I mean at all. I just think that we think more of God the Father and what our position is relative to why we're here. Jesus was always pointing, apart from the Father, I can do nothing. He was always pointing to that. Always, always, always pointing to that. Not, it wasn't about me. It wasn't about himself, you see. The fourth point is obedience to our faithfulness. This is the stuff that is really going to confuse and confound the wise and the guys, especially, that are so into their left headstrong brains. You know, a life of faithfulness is, well, candidly, it doesn't make a lot of sense. It's not a logical thing. And if we're obedient to our faith, that's going to freak a lot of people out, because in our flesh, if we're, again, honest with ourselves, we prefer to be comfortable. We don't like to work. We don't like to work out. We don't like change, except that that's one thing that's constant about God the Father, and particularly reflecting back on the source of our energy. And we look around in all things. I don't know how about you, but you know, there was a lot of energy that went into yesterday talking about an eclipse. We've heard about eclipses. They've been around for a long time. I'm still here. Nice job, Dot. You know, that was cool. Can we get back to work now? It was amazing to me how much of almost a distraction that was, where the states were taking off, schools were being canceled, military and National Guards being deployed, and all of this stuff. Why? It never been done in history. What are we doing? Anyway, it's that faithfulness that's going to show up as, I think of it as radical. Okay. It's almost like, you know, neurologically, we're not just right. You see, but that's part of the gift of entrepreneurship, because for us, we're willing to take risks that, I'll just say, the normally wired person does not. We're willing to be uncomfortable. We're willing to go through change. We're willing to endure hardship. We're willing to be patient and sacrifice. Chances are because it's something bigger than ourselves. Because if it was just ourselves, well, I think that's kind of easy. The next one really talks about to increase the, in terms of how we show up. Are we actually working in the sense of, I'll just say, what we do in the flesh, or is what we're doing actually take on a supernatural, kind of almost a shock and awe? And we've all heard about, you know, some of the miracles and the signs and the wonders of, you know, back in Jesus' day, and laying hands on people, and it was just crazy. But how many miracles had to take place before people believed? And it got to the point where after a while, Jesus almost kind of quit that with some of the unbelievers, because their biggest issue wasn't their head, it was their heart. They were more interested in terms of their lifestyle than living something supernatural. And so why I believe that we can go on and do greater things, perhaps, that Jesus informed us that we absolutely can and would do, is because we have each other. Where Jesus was one and just a small, full handful of folks, we have each other and many. So I believe that if it's true that a prayer can affect 1,000 and 2 can do 10, what can 10 do? What does that multiplication look like? And why aren't we doing more of that? So some of the questions that we'll get to in terms of how the Holy Spirit is showing up in your life and your impact on others, that's kind of today's discussion. Number 6, though, we're all supposed to have this life, not again as John the Baptist, where he's out in the desert and living by himself. Again, that was a good thing to get up to the point of the better thing of now Jesus is on the scene and sharing the kingdom way. And that is joined in a community of faith. I'd invite you in terms of why you're here today is how did you get here? Because I'm going to suggest that while we may be plugged into certain communities or Bible studies or small home groups or whatever community looks like for you, and for us, we're in largely virtual in terms of where we're trying to reach and support worldwide, is somehow, some way, we've got to get connected. But more than that is stay connected. And how do we do that? And I'm going to suggest to you that those connections may not always be for a lifetime. It could be a reason, could just be a season. But I'm going to suggest that if you're already not a part of something somewhere, then King's Counsel may be premature. Because why we're here is financial services reform. Why we're here is a better way of doing things. Contract serves its purpose, but the covenant way, we believe, is the better way. And that takes trust. And trust really comes from aligning yourselves with those of like value. So maybe you've been a part of a group and it's just not working for you, not seeing the fruit of that. I encourage you, keep scratching and look beyond. And that's a part of why we're here. It's so many times with those with projects, I need $1 million. By the time we're done exploring what that vision might look like, it's 10x at least. All of us, if we're honest with ourselves, really do want the 10x. We just haven't had the community or the environment or the support or the advisors or the expertise to come together and nurture that and encourage that and uplift that, especially when the days that your arms are weary. Who's holding you up? Solopreneurship is not the kingdom way, you see. It's teamwork. And do we really depend on one another, or don't we? Most of us at the first sign of trouble want to just drop and run. So enough about community. I think we all know how important that is to be plugged into something bigger than you are. The last is, contrary to what folks may be talking about in some of the mega churches and the prosperity gospel, and life is supposed to just naturally flow, so on and so forth. On the contrary, I believe that if we're here to share the light and that we have the word that is the sword, the truth divides. And right now, there is nothing more unpopular, especially in the United States and Western culture, than we've seen of truth. More folks believe the lie than they do the truth. So it goes without saying that we're going to encounter spiritual warfare. The real question is, in all of the armor of God, there's only one thing that is the weapon, and that is the sword, and that is the word. And are we willing to speak it? And more than that, apply it in a marketplace that is very dark and dreary right now. More specifically, getting back to our First Amendment and how we have done nothing over the time. You see, our biggest issue with our government and our monetary system right now is, despite what the Bible had to say and all its goodness, and Jesus had to talk to in all of his preaching, he talked on money and possessions more than he did faith and salvation, because he knew for most people that money, their substance, would be their God, would be their idol. So if it's not obvious what the government has done, let me just point out a few things and you can go reference for yourself. Number one, monetary debasement is wrong. That's Isaiah right out of the book, 1st chapter, 22nd verse. Number two, multiple indebtedness, which is the basis of the entire fractional reserve system, whether we know it or not, must not be allowed. This Exodus chapter 22, verse 26. And number three, that weights and measures must not be tampered with. Old Testament again. This isn't a new thing. This has been going on since before Jesus was around. You see, governments have a way of manipulating things, and it happens so slowly sometimes that we don't even see what's going on. And that's Leviticus chapter 19, verse 36. All of these are in clear violation of what God established in his civil laws for money and governing money. Now, if it's not obvious, let's point out Federal Reserve note. It's the money stuff that we all use. We call it cash. They, somewhere in the definition of their accounting, if you thought this was a good idea, somehow, some way, they've decided to call cash, which is nothing more than a debt, an asset. How is a debt an asset? Most of us, if we're business owners, we have a thing called accounts receivable, accounts payable. Those are debts in some shape or form. Somebody owes us, we owe somebody else. The Bible talks us, if we owe a man, pay a man. And yet, how many of us as employers, we hold on to the wages of our employees for 2 weeks? Or if a vendor is unfortunately, hold on for 30, 60, 90 days. This is normal accounting practice. Guys, this has to stop. This is what's killing us, whether we know it or not. We've become so enslaved into a system, an Egyptian-based system. You know, it's the pyramid on the back of the dollar in terms of how that works. But the Federal Reserve, like any other central bank, is a government licensed monopoly. Maybe you've heard that. Have you ever wondered, though, why we don't have any accountancy as to what they own, where the gold is in Fort Knox, for example? Who appoints these guys? Do you think that your vote actually matters when it comes to the very people that manage our money? I would suggest to you that the United States doesn't have any so-called money of its own other than the gold and silver for which lawful money is defined and exists in the Constitution. Legal tender is not lawful money. I don't know how they're allowed to get away with this, but be that as it may, why they exist? They too are a private member association. They're not about to turn over their books to anyone. They're not about to audit or report like any other one, because they don't need to. And I'm going to suggest to you, so whether you're for-profit or not-for-profit, when it's all said and done, how are you organized? What are we doing? Have we stopped to think about it in terms of back and forth and back and forth? We don't have to use their money. There's no law that says we do. We're here to open the eyes to see that there's a choice between taking the toll road and the toll-free road. That's a choice. Can't make you do it. It is uncomfortable. You will be encountered with a little bit of not just spiritual warfare, but also physical too. Banks don't want to just roll over and let us do this. Governments don't want to just roll over and let us do this. And the way we raise capital for the things that matter most and the initiatives in our lives, we don't need attorneys to have the right to do what we're already given in the First Amendment. Churches do not need to be organized as charities. They're already a charity. At least they should be. So I wanted to mostly highlight these 7 principles and as the extension of kingdompreneurship and what sets us apart in terms of how we need to be showing up. And we got a question for a breakout here today that I'd really encourage you to think long and hard about. If not, I invite you to lean in and, lift up the hood to more of what's going on with King's Counsel. A lot more here that meets the eye. And we'll be shifting some of the formats with which we do future town halls. We've got a lot of great content, and we really want to put it in the hands of somebody that is hungry and willing to, as it were, chew on that word and really have it nourish your soul, and so that you're encouraged and empowered to take it to your scope of influence and your organization and your family, and really, let's blow it up in a good way. Let's turn over the tables, as it were, of the money changers in a good way. Not because we're trying to be disruptive for the sake of being disruptive, but we've got a higher purpose and a plan here. And ours at King's Counsel is to reinstitute the honor economy, for which there is no statute. There is no legal jurisdiction that can tell us, or anything else, like it, for that matter, you can't regulate morality. It's either written on your heart or it's not. And I'm tired of the lukewarmness where there's a lot of interest, but there's not a lot of action or a lot of commitment. So I invite you today to look within yourselves as we break out a little bit. I'm going to grab this this ebook so everybody can kind of look. Won't be able to download, but you'll be able to look for a period of time. You like what's going on here? We've got a lot of lore in the way of really chewy teaching to get onto in terms of unveiling the kingdom of heaven.